One of the cool things about being in a moment with somebody is even somebody you know really well is going to say things you don't know. And so you're going to get to learn about people even that you have a deep connection to, like sitting on the bed right before you're about to take your clothes off. Being here with you right now, I notice.
It's a little steamy. I felt like
Yeah.
a little like, whew. Hey, curious people. You're listening to the Self Led in Bed podcast, where we explore our fascinating internal sexual landscapes and discover our authentic sexual selves. I'm your host, Patricia Rich, a certified internal family systems and sex therapist, coach, and creator of the Self Led Sexuality model for healing, pleasure, and empowerment. I've spent the last 30 years helping people to develop fulfilling relationships with themselves and others. If you're ready for some warm, smart, and juicy conversations, me and my parts invite you and your parts to get cozy and settle in. Does feeling seen and known turn you on? Today's guest shares her passion for authentic relating, a practice that invites realness, presence, and in the moment connection through simple games and conversation. We not only explore how AR can help individuals, partners, and groups to feel more alive and attuned, but we also apply the principles to sexual interaction. And then we play two of the games, speaking for our parts along the way. Randi Hall is a licensed therapist, grief guide, authentic relating facilitator, and the founder of Realness Rising. Randi brings together clinical training, lived experience, ritual, and years of facilitating grief circles and connection spaces to help people feel less alone in both grief and relationship. What do you notice arising in you as you listen? Hi, Randi.
Hi, Patty.
Welcome to Self Led in Bed. I'm so excited about our conversation today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. It's really an honor.
Great. So, I want to let listeners know that we are colleagues and we're both in the Philadelphia area and we've overlapped in some different ways. And I've always enjoyed our conversations, and I'm particularly interested today in authentic relating and some of the amazing work you're doing with that. And as we get started, I just want to ask you, Randy, what are you noticing? What parts
Totally.
are
I mean,
here?
thank you. I too have enjoyed those conversations. They have felt like, I don't know, really alive. It's been really cool to overlap with you in all the different contexts. Ooh, today I'm noticing a lot of like polarizations inside. I'm noticing parts that are just uh focused on balancing like personal and professional and yeah, like checking in about like how much I want to share or like the like risk potentially of oversharing or, sharing things that are like too tender or vulnerable or like personal, like what if a client heard me? But I'm also aware of like a part of me that really enjoys taboo and is really like turned on and excited by like taboo and mischief and, making space to talk about things that are like edgier and more fun and rooted in pleasure. So, yeah, those two parts are sort of negotiating how to really be here.
Well, I notice as you share that I feel resonant with both of those sides.
Uh-huh.
I'm well aware of all my parts around self-disclosure and vulnerability, and that comes up often on this podcast. And then, as you mentioned, mischief and edges, and it's like I felt the first on my, is that my left side. And then on my right side, when you were talking about being mischievous and the edges and things that are just sort of alive and delicious, I noticed my other side sort of going like, "Mm,
Hmm. I just got the image of like the angel and the devil on your shoulder of like,
yeah,
ooh, be such a good girl. Oh no, but maybe we could talk about some taboo things.
right,
Uh-huh.
right." And yeah, so this is a great way to get started. And do you want to say any more about yourself before we go further? Like where you're geographically located, Although I did just say that we're both in the Philadelphia area, but there may be more about your physical location or your identities that you would want to share with listeners.
Yeah, totally. So right now I practice in the Philadelphia area, but I also like work with clients in different ways around the country, and I do a lot of work virtually. And the identities and communities and roles I feel like I take on in the world is I'm a cis white woman. I identify as queer and pansexual and polyamorous. I am a wife and I am a mother. I have two awesome young little kids. I'm a Jewish person and I'm a therapist and a grief tender. And I like to think of myself as like a ritualist. But really, I just focus a lot of my work and my identities on just really trying to be a human, trying to be real. My business is called Realness Rising, and I really just value so much and try to bring to all the areas of my work and my personal life, like, how do we really be real with each other? How do we just be humans side by side navigating this wild world together?
I love that. And I'm wondering if you could say more. Like, what is being real?
Yeah. Oh, I think being real kind of aligns with the subject that we're talking about today, which is authentic relating, which is why I love it. But being real to me is like really showing up, being so like true to yourself and true to your experience, and like saying the thing that's on your mind, even if it's like a little risky or a little vulnerable. And being real is also like adding your own quirks to things, and your own like having some clarity about what you value and really like letting that be a part of like how you show up in different places. And so for me, like sound effects are a way that I show up really real is I'm like, ooh, and I just like to make sounds, my body moves, like being real and true to who I am is I'm like not afraid to go deep and to ask really like questions and to like get to like the heart of something quickly with people, but I also do sort of bring this like, I'm just gonna be who I am and I'm gonna move the way that my body wants to move. And I'm sometimes that's a lot and weird for people. And being real for me is just owning it and like showing up as me.
I love that. And again, I'm having very somatic reactions just sitting here with you, Randy. I'm just like, my body's feeling all this permission just from you verbalizing that part of your realness is permission to embody your feelings and to let your sounds come and your movements come. So it's just funny. I'm like moving all over here listening to you. I'm
It's cool.
very
But
suggestible. I have very suggestible parts.
totally, but I notice like experiencing your moving also like validates and gives me permission. Like the part of me that is normally like self-conscious, like is this a little weird or is just trying to be like socially attuned? Like is this too much for this space? I also have a lot of too much parts. And so I don't know, just hearing you like sort of play off of me and like join me in that, I'm like, oh, there's more permission for me to be more me, which is like kind of the beauty of all of this stuff that we're talking about is like being our most true to ourselves selves is like such a gift because like then other people we do inspire we do ideally in this work hope to create spaces where other where like the whole room of people or like the whole dyad of the people that are connecting with each other are feel more permission to be who they really are.
And so that's one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on today. And we'll talk in a minute about so authentic relating could just be a way of relating, which is authentic, but there's also a thing called authentic relating. And we're going
Yes,
to get to
yes.
that in a second. But before we do that, um, and I'm noticing my contextualizer always makes me forget what I was going to say before it stepped in. I just was giving a little context.
Totally.
Yeah. Uh, so, what is the opposite or like the condition that is not being real? What's it this a remedy to? Like, and I'm thinking of words like masking or conforming or things like that.
It feels like maybe a piece of this is like when we feel in contexts like is this appropriate or is this too much when we're second guessing what actually feels true inside where we're like this is how I want to show up or whatever but I maybe need to tend to the environment that I'm in or I'm in a professional setting or there's some kind of barrier or we don't know the person so it feels like the contexts where we're not are in like places or with people that we're really not sure how safe it is to bring it all out or how appropriate it is to like bring all of who you are in that moment. And it could be for like a reason that's not necessarily like attempting to be harmful. Like I'm at work and so bringing my whole sexual self to a place where I like need to be a professional or like even to my clients. That's a great example is when I'm in session. I like to believe that I show up as myself, that my clients can really feel me as a person there, but like bringing all the different parts of me or overly self-disclosing when it's not appropriate. Like that's a setting where I maybe have a little bit of a rein on like my full authentic expression versus like when I'm at a burn, or I'm in a context where like all of me is really invited. Or if I'm with family members, where like maybe there's a degree of an identity of mine or a way that I like need to behave or a way I just won't be gotten or understood where I'm sort of solving for that around children. Well, it's interesting because I say children and children really bring out a lot of authenticity. And I'm actually in real time questioning if I'm going for like appropriateness versus authenticity because there's places where I think I'm authentic, but to the degree that is appropriate for the context, like with kids. Yeah, but I feel like it's solving for that place where there's a should, or there's a way that we, yeah, like might need to operate in a different way than would be our full expression.
What's coming for me listening to that is really appreciating how the IFS lens of multiplicity and of self energy can be so helpful to me around this notion of authenticity
Yeah.
because there's expression, there's just putting out in the world everything I'm thinking or feeling or embodying. And that's different to me than the discernment, like being authentically relating with myself in a way, like noticing my parts, listening to the different desires or urges or impulses that are here, and sort of making mindful choices. Oh, this is where my protectors might come in. This is an appropriate context for this, or this isn't really where it's about you and your expression, or, you're at a toll booth. Like, you don't need to share everything, like there's,
Totally.
different. So I think appreciating, but when I can authentically be with my own experience internally, it gives me the option of authentically relating more with others. And I guess on the other hand, being with people who can really embrace who I am without me being super self conscious about it, help me know who I am
Yeah,
and have the confidence to bring that, when it's feels like the setting
totally.
is
I mean, I'm
good.
thinking the word that's coming through as you're describing that is permission. Like I'm hearing you say like inside there might be a permission in that there might be a permission for all of your parts to exist, and there might be a permission for your full authentic expression to exist within you. And then I hear the protective part sort of deciding, is this a safe enough context for the authenticity I'm like allowing myself to feel? I give myself the gift of feeling and being. Like, is this a safe enough context for me to bring it out?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I just want to say, as we're talking, this may sound a little abstract, and we're going to demonstrate a little more when we get more to the official authentic relating piece here. But I just want to say that this podcast focuses on sexuality and also on intimacy. And
Mhm.
there's so much overlap in our how do we relate with ourselves? How do we relate with other people? And how does that impact our experience of sexuality? And this is hard a lot of times, right? Like if our whole life we never even met our authentic self, or we don't even, I talk to so many people who just the idea of noticing something they actually want
Mm,
is it's a Herculean task because their entire life lesson was you don't get to know what you want and you have to focus on what other people want and need in order to be safe.
right.
So this practice of knowing what we want or who we are and putting it out there is so impacted by how we've been raised. And then it has such an impact on how comfortable we might be with some self-expression, intimacy, knowing what we want, what we don't want, just even feeling closeness or feeling unsafe in closeness and vulnerability.
Yeah, totally.
So tell us about authentic relating as a thing. What is it?
Totally. It's a lot of what we've already been talking about, which is that authentic relating is the practice of freely expressing your true experience in the company of others who are freely expressing their true experience. I say this sometimes to people who join me for my authentic relating nights is like, what is it like to be me in my body, in my experience with my system, in the same space as you being yourself with your system? What's it like for us to be together, and how do we explore that relational space? So that again is a little bit of an abstract context or abstract like kind of concept, but a lot of times it's played, which is one of the things I love about it. It's played in a game form. And so there's a game with guidelines, and here's how you play it. It's usually a facilitated experience, unless you're like familiar with the games and want to self-facilitate, which is very possible. But oftentimes the games have a structure, a time limit, like they'll give you lines to share. And there's a way where the way that the games are designed is to help get you like out of that surface level of connecting that a lot of us are operating under in our worlds and culture, and getting us to be in relationship to ourselves. And so, like, usually at the start of all of my authentic relating facilitation, I'll say, this is an invitation. Everything I offer you is an invitation. It's an invitation for you to be in a relationship with yourself about what you're available for and not available for. And to check in, Patty, you and I have used the phrase like internal consent, to check in, like, what is, what am I here for? What am I a yes for? What am I a no for? And potentially, how can I adapt this situation to really meet me in what I'm available to do? But yeah, it's there's one more thing. Like somebody had equated it to like going to the gym. We go to the gym to work our like physical muscles and to get stronger. And authentic relating game practices are kind of like going to the gym for your social and connection skills and your skills of relating with yourself and with others.
And who invented authentic relating? Is it a licensed thing? Is it an
They call it
idea?
they call it open source social technology. And so there are a couple people that were like really involved. Sarah Ness is a person who was really involved in sort of like the creating and the designing and the developing of the like the games manual. There's actually a games manual that is fully available to anyone. Authentic Revolution is her organization. Authrev.org is like where to find it. You can get the games manual there. She has like a great intro video of like what's authentic relating in her words. And yeah, it's a really beautiful resource that they've just dubbed open source sociology. They want people to contribute to the game list. There's a bunch of games like I've made up. They're not in the manual, but just like that I do with my own clients and friends and community. But there's also a whole slew of games that you can adapt and make happen. Jason Diggs is another person who was involved in Art International, which is another organization that also does like authentic relating leadership trainings and facilitation trainings, as does Authentic Revolution, and a couple other places have popped up. But if you Google authentic relating, you'll find a lot of resources and stuff. It's a thing, and it often AR is how it's abbreviated.
That's awesome. So it's something, it's not specific to therapy and therapists. It's something anyone can do. Some people have more leadership experience with it, but then it sounds like something that you've explored with clients and also just in community, like just to build community. Is that right?
So yes, is it helpful to share a little bit about how I got into it and how I found it?
Absolutely.
So, there is a person, I'm just going to plug her because she's amazing. There's a person in Philadelphia, Rachel Whitworth, and her business is Let's Be Authentic. And so this is like my earlier days in Philadelphia. I've been here for like 8 years. And one of the first years that I was here, I found Lael and Rachel teach these authentic relating days. And I found one of their workshops. And like, it was just me going to an event in Philadelphia, and it was just like a social connection event. And it blew my mind. I loved the games. I loved connecting. I'm like kind of allergic to surface connection. And so it was just this like deep dive, total strangers in a room. And like after a couple of games, I was like, I felt so seen. I felt so curious. I felt so felt by all of the people in the space. I really loved the games that they chose. And it really did something for me in connecting my professional self and my personal self. As a therapist, I know I'm not sure if you've had this experience too, but it felt to me like my gifts, my work, the medicine I bring to the world only gets seen behind closed doors or in consultation groups. And that's also how I, as a human, like to connect and relate. And I was then in this room with all these people utilizing the kinds of skills that I was practicing with clients, that I was practicing with, like in consultation groups and supervision in professional settings. But I was able to do it in a social environment. And so it felt like for me, it bridged the gap. I was always like so sad I could never bring my therapy skills or do therapy or like explore in some of the ways that I do with clients to my loved ones, to my friend as part of a community building that felt tricky because those two worlds, for very good reasons, need to stay separate. But authentic relating has been a way that I can play with my friends. I can sometimes I've had clients come to different kinds of contexts, negotiated and all of the things, but it's a way that I've been able to bridge the gap between bringing things like communication skills or deepening relationship with self and other, exploring your parts into contexts where it's not just professional or it's not just personal. It's been a really, really beautiful like tool and methodology to do that. So yes, community building. I have a weekly authentic relating night. I use this work with couples a lot. It's been like changing the landscape of how I see couples and how much they enjoy the sessions and also with like friends, with like, yeah, just all over my life. I love this practice.
I am really appreciating that you're verbalizing something I haven't really quite heard or said in that way of, but I can relate to it in terms of I also, doing what I do, probably not shocking, but the whole idea of relating and deep connection is what has driven my whole life, really. It's the stuff that makes
Yeah.
me feel the most alive. It's what I'm very grateful to have my professional life be built around. My psychotherapy practice is called the Relating Well Center.
Hmm.
And I realized, that relating is just such a powerful word for me. This idea of it's not treating, it's not entertaining. There's something about relating. There's a back and forth. There's something happening in a relating kind of relationship. And so I love this idea of being able to bring some of that richness and depth into out of the therapy room and helping people bring it into their personal lives, both therapists and, just people who want that. I'm smiling because my spouse once said to me, like, because I don't do well with small talk either. We'll go to some social gathering, and he says, like, I see you, like I see you kind of like looking around, and every once in a while I'll put something out there that's sort of an invitation into some deepening, and then I'll like, if people respond to that, I get all like perky. And if nobody does and it's just staying on the surface, I might pull back a little bit. And he said,
Totally.
he said, it's like you're a Bluetooth, like you're trying to pair.
Yes,
And
totally.
if there's no signal, I'm like, all right, I can adapt, but it's definitely I don't feel as much aliveness.
Totally. It feels like, for me, it feels like more work to stay on the surface because my natural place is like, I really want to know you. I care. I like, tell me about your fears. Tell me about what's bringing you like joy. Tell me about what you're passionate about, what you're afraid of. Like, I want to know those things. I don't care how you feel about the weather. And not that I don't care, but just like, uh, yeah,
So this might be a good time to play a little game. What do you
sure.
think?
Absolutely. I would love to play a game. There's a really simple game. It's not easy, but it is simple, and it's called the noticing game. And a lot of times game nights will open up with this as a way to just sort of like drop into what is it like to be in relational space together. And the noticing game, Patty, you and I will go back and forth, and I can start and just share. I'll share something using the phrase, being here with you, I notice. And I'm going to share something with you about my experience and what I'm noticing being here with you right now in this space. And then you'll respond with two options. The first one is hearing that I notice. And then you can share some your experience or like that was inspired by what I shared about your experience. Or you can start a new thread, which is being here with you, I notice. And then we can kind of go back and forth for maybe a minute or two just so you can get a sense of the game. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
A little nervous, gotta say, got a little nervousness, but let's
Totally.
that
I
I
also
can
do.
I
I'm
can
like,
notice that. I can notice
oh,
it. I want
yes.
you to start us out. Is
You got it. So,
that okay?
um, being here with you, I notice actually like a permission once you just said that, like that you feel a little nervous. I notice permission for my own parts to like, I notice a part of me that really wants to like share something juicy and useful.
So hearing that, I notice a part of me leaning in and saying, "Ooh, what might Randy say that would be juicy?"
Ooh, hearing that, I feel my mischief part creep back up and like you can't see my fingers right now, but they're like jiggling. Hearing that, yeah, I notice my mischief part like creep up and want to meet you and like play with you in that.
Mm. As I hear that, was that the
Hearing that,
language?
yeah, it's okay.
Hearing
Like the
that,
words can be flexible.
yeah,
Hearing you say that or hearing
yeah.
that, I notice.
Hearing you say that, I notice both an continued elevation of energy, like, ooh, those fingers are moving, like, ooh, what's going to happen? And
Mm,
then I also notice a little bit of like, ooh, could this be too much on the podcast? What if this gets too much
mhm.
somehow? I notice a part wondering that too.
Hearing that, I actually notice a settling in my system of like, okay, someone else has a pulse on that too. Of like, it feels like, yeah, I'm noticing my parts settle around having a shared responsibility of us both like being invited to play, but also maintaining like, ooh, how much, how far, how deep do we go to really honor like both wanting to model truth and authenticity and realness here, and also wanting to honor the parts of us that are professionals, and are people that have other feelings.
And then I notice as I hear that, a part of me deflating and going,
Yes. Uh-huh.
oh, it was starting to get exciting, and now I feel like it's going to be grown up talk again.
Mm. Ooh, hearing that, I notice one part that's like, oh no, I've disappointed her. But I also notice, okay, let's go back to playing. Yeah, and I notice this like wanting to come back to meet you. I notice it feels like an attuning or wanting to like stay in the energy that feels fun for you.
Mm. And as you say that, I notice sort of a smile coming, sort of like a more in my heart space. Oh, like almost like this would be the beginning if we were to keep going. Oh, almost like now we're ready to play.
Hearing that, I notice getting this sort of like image of us like frolicking in a field. And a part of me that just like delights in the element of like exploration and play together. And maybe just for the interest of time, the conversation, maybe we'll go back and forth one more time.
I notice as I hear that a whole kind of curiosity and imagining being in that field and like grass and rocks and waterfalls and like hide and seek and like silliness and fairies and stuff like that.
Ooh, hearing that, I'm like, yeah, let's go to there. And then I also notice a part of me that's like, I wonder, I really feel curious about like your childhood and I feel curious about like your inner child. And yeah, I think if there were more time here, I'd really like want to explore that with you. But I notice all that it feels like an effervescent, like seltzer bubbles feeling of like excitement around that. Thanks for playing with me, Patty.
Thank you.
Yeah. Curious what
And
you notice having explored that with me a little bit.
this isn't the noticing game anymore.
Not the noticing game. No, no, no. We're getting meta now. We're
Now
coming
I'm
back.
noticing
Yeah.
how I felt during the noticing
Correct.
game.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything? Sorry, I see what happened there. I'm curious, like if there's any responses or reactions or like any of your parts that, like, I'm
Yeah.
curious what that was like for your parts
Yeah.
in your system.
Um, I feel like I traveled like this. I had a whole little journey,
Mm.
and kind of starting with a little excitement, a little nervous in the end, just feeling like this big expanse and sort of like a bigger openness. And it just felt like things got more spacious inside and bigger. And um, yeah, like there was a little bit of, like some moments that felt like a little, almost a little scary, like what's my edge here? And then, so it was interesting, just some like up, like raising energy, lowering energy in that short bit of exchange. It was very dynamic.
How cool. I love that range. That's so beautiful.
How about you?
Yeah, I noticed how attuned I got to your every move, actually. I was like watching your hands move and your clothes and just like I noticed just myself really step into like a connected, I felt a connection to you in that I was really like listening inside of myself. I felt actually a connection to you and a connection to me in a slightly different way from before, where I was like, what am I noticing being here with Patty? I felt like I was really just tuned into you and how that was affecting me, which for me is part of what makes this practice so cool. That's like one example of one kind of game. And it's like the exchange of two sentence stems. And it's simple and it's gives these instructions and this container, but how deep can you like you can really go to a lot of places with that.
It's surprisingly powerful. I'm just picturing in terms of people that want to deepen a connection, say with a romantic or potential partner or current partner, whether it's around someone they want to feel close with emotionally or kind of opening a pathway into more sexual, potentially intimacy, also,
Totally.
how this opens something. There's a
Totally.
vulnerability, and a lot of the things that we do as sex therapists or is like really all about getting in the moment. How do you get present? Just it's as simple as that. When we can get here, both be here at the same time, and our protectors have opened up enough space, like we can have an experience together, and whether that's a sexual experience or an emotionally intimate experience or an experience getting to know ourselves better. That's sort of the climate. I feel like it's like the in which those things can emerge. So I'm just appreciating this could be a very sort of simple thing, but how useful it could be for people who are wanting to kind of be able to connect more deeply with themselves or with others.
Totally. And there's an element of authentic relating they call reveal your experience. And in revealing your experience, you're inviting opportunity for a more authentic connection. So, this game is a lot of revealing one's experience. What is it like for me right now? And sometimes, I don't know if you've ever had this experience of sharing with someone, like, I'm feeling a little nervous to say this to you, but I want you to know XYZ. And there's something about naming, I'm feeling a little nervous right now, or there's a part of me that's nervous right now that invites a little bit more of a tenderness in the receiving of that. It like helps set the person up for success of like, okay, maybe I'm not going to respond so harshly here. They're feeling a little nervous about this, right? And there's something about that that invites a more of an authentic connection. And I think that to your point, this is a way that we're giving reveals and inviting what's it like to be here as me with you as you.
Mhm.
And to speak to like the intimate, like this is cool foreplay for people who like to talk and hear and process. Like, can you imagine sitting on a bed with someone before having a sexual experience? What's it like to be here with you right now? What's it like to be me here with me right now? That can really bring a lot of connection and it can be played at different points in an exchange. Like, can you imagine a date like this? Even a first date, right? You're sitting at the table and like starting like this, as opposed to like, what do you do for work? How far did you have to walk? Oh, this weather's really getting to me, right? Like, what a different conversation you're having being here with you. I notice. Wow, you're going to get somewhere really, really different right
Yeah.
off the bat. But also, further on down the line, even if it's with an established partner, one of the cool things about being in a moment with somebody is even somebody you know really well is going to say things you don't know. And so you're going to get to learn about people even that you have a deep connection to, like sitting on the bed right before you're about to take your clothes off. Being here with you right now, I notice.
It's a little steamy. I felt like
Yeah,
a little like, whew, like first
totally.
date, like sitting you right with you right now. I notice and the kind of the intimacy of that, and
Totally. And you
it's
can
sort of
tailor
a
it.
yeah.
So you can like invite, like, if you just want to have it be like about your body,
Mhm.
being here with you, my body, being here with you,
Yeah.
my body is like feeling tense. Being here with you, my body is anticipating being here with you. My body is like a little nervous. Being like
Yeah.
that gives a lot of information about how to engage in connection that's attuned and that's real.
Yeah. 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 I have some erotic parts that are like, oof, being with you right now, my body is engorging being with you right now.
Yeah, totally.
All of that. Another thing that occurs to me here is how it sort of normalizes that in therapy land, we can use words like individuation, which are sometimes hard to really know what that actually means or feels like. But
Mm.
this idea that, like, you're having your experience and I'm having my experience, and they're not actually the same experience, and that's actually okay. Because I think sometimes we have this idea that, like, um, we have to be having the same experience in order to feel close and connected. I want you to feel what I'm feeling. Oh, don't you feel the same way as me?
Hmm.
And it feels like that's the meeting place, as opposed to like, oh, I can kind of witness your authenticity and I can share mine. And then like there's sort of a third space that opens.
Totally. And there's a piece here where this can be for the clients or the people's knowledge of themselves, and also a therapeutically like it can be like a tool for assessment, is that your experience, especially in romantic committed relationships, affect each other. So like hearing in that, just to use our example, hearing you're like, oh, I felt deflated. I was like, oh no, I've disappointed her. And so there's like maybe a thing around like, oh, I've got some people pleasing parts in there, that like, and so there's a way that can also be assessing for what happens to you when your partner expresses disappointment. Or do I feel permission to say, I loved that you were brave enough to say like, oh, I got this like reaction, that's so real and authentic. But what happens? Does the partner collapse when they're like, "Oh no, it's the end," or can they hold that? That's information for them and that's information in like a therapeutic relationship too.
That's great.
Mm.
So, did you say there was another game related to curiosity?
Okay, I'm gonna set the timer. Ready, go. What? Oh, I set a alarm instead of a timer. Okay, here we go. What would be an ideal date, like from start to finish?
Two.
What parts of you come out when you are about to give a talk about your bliss program?
Four.
Where is the most like erotic place you've ever had sex?
Okay, so now I have a five and a one colliding
Uh-huh,
because
from different parts. Okay, good to know. But then I can take that into account later. So thank you for checking in with the different parts of you. How did you learn about sex and sexuality? Who taught you?
three or four.
Mhm. Beautiful. Okay. So now we're going to move to the second round, and I'm just going to take the information that I got and, try not to be too hard on yourselves. Sometimes you don't remember all the things. Like I have a part that's like, do I remember all of the higher numbers? Maybe not, and that's okay. I'm responding from this place of human, and I'm trusting that in this negotiated frame, Patty's going to speak for her system if she's a no for something. And that's a real gift. And when we can trust that somebody will actually honor their system. Okay, so let's go into this second round. So, Patty, what parts of you come out when you're talking about or about to give a talk about your Bliss program?
So I have parts that are so passionate about it and want to somehow transmit to people like what's really amazing that happens or can potentially happen for people in that. So there's like that passionate part and mission, also sort of mission driven part. They kind of go close together. And then I have parts that are like always like nervous and feel constricted because they're like, how do I put this into words? How do I try to articulate something that isn't really a verbal experience?
Hmm.
So there's like sort of like a pressure to communicate something that's hard to communicate. a little nervousness, like, hey, is anyone going to show up for this talk? Am I going to be talking to people I already know? Are these going to be people I don't know? Will they like me? Will they relate? So, yeah, those are some of the parts.
Thank you. And like, who taught you about sex and sexuality, and like, what messages did you get when you were young?
Okay, so I have about a stadium full of parts on that one
Hmm.
because there's what was sort of modeled, like not explicitly, and then there's things that were taught or not taught,
Hmm.
So I
So I'd say
think,
maybe the ones that feel like for your parts like the most exciting to talk about, or like
mm,
the realms or answers to that that actually feels, yeah, like exciting for you to share about in this moment.
let's see. Um, it's funny. I noticed some parts that feel a little embarrassed.
Hmm.
Um, and how did I learn? So I think I had a lot of very curious parts. So I don't know that I so much was taught as much as I sought information.
Mm.
So I would like look around the house for like any like book. Okay, guys, this is like pre-internet, so I'm pretty old. It's like a really different landscape because, just sort of, oh, there's like a few books in the house, that I could find or things that had images in them or like so some of it was like my curiosity leading and then like finding things or like talking to people and like my friends and like trying to figure stuff out. It's like kind of a whole thing. And then some stuff I learned through like, I have an older sister, who told me some stuff or like things in school that I learned. Although I already pretty much knew everything by the time the school like decided to tell us stuff. But I did grow up, I would say, like there was a feeling of warmth and connection between my parents and like a sense of they weren't prudy. They weren't like real out in public about anything, but there was like it wasn't something that felt like a shut down kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I think there's a lot of implicit, like my parents would like hug each other, give each other a kiss, and we would go like, ew, but they like wouldn't stop, They would be like, no, like I love your mother, I love your father. So there were things I think I took in that way too.
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you. Something I'm going to note here is the timer went off a little while ago, and I was like just aware that there's vulnerability to your share. So I just want to be accountable that like I went over the time that we designated, but I also didn't want to interrupt you or invalidate the parts that we're working to find the answer. So I just want to name that that
Mhm.
happened. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah. Hmm. But thank you for sharing that. I really, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate knowing that stuff. And so now we'll move to the third round, which is that something I think I'm getting about you, or some things I think I'm getting about you, are that you're really mindful of your impact on other people and seem to be really like conscious of your own internal consent and which parts have things to say, and that you're like hungry for knowledge and like willing to explore when there's something that calls to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do I do? Just do I acknowledge
Yep.
that in the
Yeah.
game or how does that
So
work?
there's no like preset thing. It's really just given as a gift. There's no like
Hmm.
response. It's not like coming with any strings attached. You can just kind of receive it. If it feels true to say thank you, usually I'll say like, okay, and now thank your partner, and we're going to switch to the next partner.
Hmm.
And so then we get to the end of the thing. You can like in debrief moments, it can be like sharing if that landed or if that person actually
Hmm.
saw something in
Yeah.
you. I feel like it's really what is the authentic response there, and there's no expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed liking the being curious what you would say, and some of it was like just maybe, is that true about me? I guess maybe it is, and like a little bit of a felt body sense of like
Mm,
some things sort of like feeling alive, maybe some almost like something deeper down, like in my legs that I'm not so aware of, but like something feeling seen or
mm,
reflected in some way.
mm.
Mm.
Yeah, it can be really meaningful. Sometimes somebody sees something in us that maybe we don't realize about our impact on others, or like something that we're like, thank you for seeing me in that. That's really special.
Mhm.
It's a real gift. We don't often share, here's what I'm getting about you, or here's how you're impacting me in that moment. I think that is one of the gifts of this work.
So as we pull this together, and then just what's coming up for me is this the impact of feeling known and
Mm,
seen. And I'm reminded of, I'm no biblical scholar, right? But the language used for sexual connection is often knowing, like this Abraham knew Sarah, like the word that gets used for sex basically is knowing he knew her. And so I always think about that because knowing has so many levels to it, right? So there's something about when you feel known, um, for me, like feeling known does feel like part of that pathway to intimacy, and in this case, that's not the nature like of our relationship. So it will sit where it is and it's
Yeah,
great right where it is. But I could see also that like with someone that I did want to potentially or already have a sexual relationship with, like how feeling known, like that like the touch could just continue that process of knowing
totally.
and being known, that's the vulnerability and also the beautiful potential for like union, right? When we're really feel known and met
Hmm.
and attuned to.
Totally. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love this practice is it is about being with someone. It's about really getting to know yourself. And a lot of times people are learning things about themselves in real time. Even the parts when I introduce a game and someone's like, I don't want to do this. Literally, like this past week, there's a different game that really features desires. And it's like inviting other people to, like, it's called Do Y'all Wanna? And so you're in a group. And is it okay to describe this game a little bit?
Yeah.
You're
Mhm.
in a group and basically you're asking for your desire, like if people want to do your desire with you. And I had someone that was like, this really scares me to speak for what I want. And that person ended up playing the game and doing it in a relationship with themselves and wanting to try it out. But it was so vulnerable for them. And then a lot of their takeaway at the end was learning about the parts of them that show up that are vulnerable. And, if we're just doing the things that feel good all the time, we miss out on the opportunities to learn about those parts of us. And so it was a really cool learning for him to be in a space of speaking for something he really wanted to explore with the other people in the group and also to trust the group that they would honor themselves, which is a big piece of it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm just also touched about the being known piece that you're bringing up. And you brought up like negotiations as part of this game. And the being known is one of the reasons I love authentic relating. It's one of the reasons I love like the negotiation elements that come up in like the world of kink. It's like being known, having someone take the time, even if they know you, outside of the context of that connection exchange or sexual exchange or kink exchange, there's a negotiation process usually before every scene of how do I know you today in this moment? What's your body needing today? How, like, which parts of you are showing up to this scene right now? And how do we tend to them? And how do we give you the exciting thing you want? And how do I get the exciting thing I want? And how do we take care of each other before, during, and after? So the being known is so powerful and underrated.
Oof. Yeah, I feel like there's so much more here. We could just, keep delving in and it's just opening more and more curiosity for me and I really appreciate that. I also have an aware of the time part.
Yes, totally. Totally. I could
And
go on and on forever.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is just phenomenal. And I guess as we're starting to draw toward the end here, I'm just wondering if there's anything you'd want to let people know in terms of resources. You already did share some
Mhm.
about this, but is there anything else you'd want people to know in terms of authentic relating or just anything left unsaid in this conversation?
Mm. Yeah, I think I named it a little bit in this last piece, but really wanting to emphasize the gift of like the internal consent piece, but the gift of giving that to somebody else. I love these games. I love this format, and one of the coolest things about the container that it creates is like the invitation to and the encouragement to really be in a relationship with yourself about like what am I really a yes for and what am I really a no for, and to engage from that place because the tip is like it is such a gift to give someone that authentic yes or no to participate. Because have you ever asked someone a question where, or like to ask someone to do something where you're like, oh, can you help me with this? Or can you rub my shoulders? And that person's like, okay. And you're like, are you sure? Do you really want this? Like, I don't want to if you don't want to. And just like what a gift it is to be in a container where you're normalizing, like I get to ask for and know the thing I want. I would love for you to rub my shoulders. And then when you get a yes, you know it's a real yes. That's such a gift. But in order to give that gift, you also have to be able to say, you know what, I'm really not a no for that, or not a yes for that right now. I feel like I'm actually not available for that. Because then you know, and like that's such a gift to be able to give people from that place. Because then there's freedom to ask. And then when you get the yes, you know it's like for real, and you can enjoy it.
That's really so important and provides so much permission and safety.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
cool.
So, yeah, thank you so much. It's been such an honor and privilege to be here and to explore this with you. I feel like this makes work so, this brings so much aliveness and realness to the work that we do with ourselves, with our friends and communities and clients.
There's so many different, yeah, ways that I think it can enliven. For me, I'll say, even as a therapist who relates with people in that capacity, sort of to your point earlier, it's still easy to feel so isolated. And so getting together with people and having some ways to introduce some of these things. I'm just anticipating a couple gatherings I have coming up, and
Mhm.
my parts are like, how could we work it into something, you know?
Totally.
And
And it can be worked,
yeah.
I'll just name this piece, it can be worked into a variety of different settings. We've talked about like social settings and couple settings and intimate and sexual settings. And a lot of those spaces are in the more like, we'd call them like positive realms. They're like happier, more exciting occasions. But this stuff also makes sense and has space for more tender spaces or grief spaces or, spaces that hold more tenderness where we get to like really be real and curious about somebody else's experience. So just because we've focused on that more like fun side of things, there are a lot of games specifically and a lot of other ways that this like model of relating can be applied for like the full spectrum of emotion.
I could imagine that being helpful even in conflict resolution and things like
Absolutely.
that. And you and I, because we have the IFS background, I think sort of just automatically wove that together.
Hmm.
But if people don't have that, I just want to say it feels like the two couldn't complement each other. You could do authentic relating without any IFS awareness, right? And you can also do IFS without authentic relating. But when you can bring them together,
Oh,
then
absolutely.
it kind of seems like it even opens up more
Totally.
nuance. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, that curiosity game can be played with the invitation towards people's parts. Like you can just frame all of the questions towards like, I want to know about the parts in your system. And so you can just like sort of like you put a theme on a party, you can put a theme on authentic relating games and have all of the games tailored towards something like that.
Well, maybe we will do a follow-up sometime and do a little more exploration around that. But before we end today, I just wanted to ask you what I ask most of the guests who come on the show, which is, first of all, how can people find you? And then what is something you haven't mentioned yet today that you find pleasurable in life?
Mm, definitely. I am. Oh, I was going to start with the pleasure. I'll start with how to reach me. My name is Randi Hall. My business is called Realness Rising. And you can find that realnessrising.com, Realness Rising on Instagram. It's spelled Realness, Rising, Rising. And yeah, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on just the website, and I have a podcast called Getting Real with Grief. And yeah, there's lots of ways to connect and find me. I'd love to hear from you. And then also, what's something that's giving me pleasure? I feel like on a personal end, like water. I love to swim. I love to float in bodies of water. I love to just kayak and just be in bathtubs. Like just water does it really for my system. I love that. And then like more connectedly, my children have really been giving me a lot of joy. Like my daughter's a year and a half old and her laugh is like medicine pleasure. Wish I could bottle it. It's just the best thing. So, motherhood these days and my 4-year-old, it's just the two of them really giving me pleasure and joy.
Oh, lovely. I'm a water gal myself, so
Mhm.
I really relate with that one. And oof, miss my big kids being little kids, but it brings back just a little bit of that joy
Yeah, I'm trying to
that
savor
I
it.
used to
Everyone says
feel.
it's all gone so fast.
Ah. All right. Well, thank you so much. And yes, I look forward to future connections with you.
Absolutely. Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Self-Led in Bed podcast. Check us out at www.patriciarich.com/podcast, where you can sign up for a free guide to the 6 S's of sexual self-energy. And if you liked this episode, please subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time.